Welcome to the Root of Power podcast, where I teach you how to chase your joy, find alignment, and create a life and a business that you love, using actionable methods, interviews, and inspiring stories from people who know that true freedom is found within. I'm your host, your always hype woman and sometimes ass kicker, Amanda Chils, and I am so proud of you for choosing to step into your power. Come along, we've got dreams to build. Okay, my love, I have put everything that I offer for free on one page so that we are not doing more work than we have to, because why would we do that? Hashtag work smarter, not harder. So livemyhappyhealth.com/free. You are going to find everything I've created for not only leveling up in your personal life and building a life that you love, but leveling up in your business life and building a business that you love. Okay? livemyhappyhealth.com/free. Love you.
Hi, welcome to this week's episode. I thank you for being here. If this is your first time, hi. And if this is your second, 100th, whatever time, hi. I see this a lot in the wellness space and the spiritual space, that this like good vibes only, high vibes only, no low vibes kind of like bullshit rhetoric that is extremely toxic and completely unhelpful if you are a human being who experiences both, the entire spectrum of human emotions. And so many people already try and bypass emotions that they don't love, and it causes so many problems. So it's something I thought I would speak to because it's something I talk to with clients all the time, is this idea that like only allowing happiness or attempting to only allow happiness is a fool's errand. And what it does is first of all, it like reinforces this idea that some emotions are good and some emotions are bad. And then very naturally, people start not wanting the quote unquote bad emotions, which they're not bad, they're just uncomfortable. And then people start spiritually bypassing, they start avoiding anything that makes them human. They start avoiding life because life is not all sunshine and rainbows, and we don't want it to be. That is not the full spectrum of this human experience, nor is it even like remotely helpful, because you can't just pick and choose what you want, right? So it's not like a pet store where you can pick the puppy that you want. It's a house with the windows open. Like you can't choose which breeze comes through. It's not something, the windows are open or they're closed. Everything comes through or nothing comes through. And I can't tell you how many clients I have who are like, I'm so miserable, I'm so discontent, like I'm so unhappy and I don't know why. And it turns out that a huge part of the reason why is that they're avoiding any emotions that are uncomfortable. So what happens is they like shove down these emotions and they bury them and they bury them and they bury them. But the thing about burying emotions is they don't go away. It's not like a body that you bury and it stays in the ground forever. They're like bodies that you bury and then they come up in like more and more and more increasingly fucked up ways until you pay attention and they force you to feel them. Like emotions get stored in the body unless they're fully released and felt. And that's how you actually get to happiness. That's how you actually get to contentment. So a lot of people misunderstand and they think that I'm like happy all the time, and I'm not. I'm not happy all the time. I'm not happy all the time, but what I am is able to feel all of my emotions, which means that I'm not burying any. I'm just riding the wave of all of them and, not necessarily enjoying every single emotion that comes along, but I'm okay with all of them. I accept all of them. I invite them all in for tea. Perhaps it's Ram Dass who has that analogy where he says, like, invite these emotions in for tea, sit with them, listen to them. All emotions are information, and the purpose of emotions is to get us to do something. So anger makes us bite or fight. Fear makes us flee. Happiness wants us to celebrate. Grief tries to get us to connect. Fear tries to get us to problem solve. Worry tries to get us to problem solve. Like every emotion has a purpose. And if you're trying to block them, you are cutting yourself off from one of the most powerful sources of wisdom that exists, which is your body and your subconscious, because your subconscious is always, always, always reacting to things that we're not consciously aware of. So it is taking in every piece of data, every piece of data, everything that you experience in a day, and reacting to it and giving you all of this information, all of this knowledge that you're cutting yourself off from if you're only on the good vibes only train, on the no low vibes, which is such a toxic bullshit thought process. Like, no darkness allowed, no discomfort allowed, no reality allowed. Be a Barbie, be a robot, be happy, or you're doing it wrong is so toxic and also so discriminatory against anyone with mental health issues or chronic pain or a disability. Like, again, life is not sunshine and rainbows. Like, we want to leave room for being human. Not that I want you to drown in your sorrows. Okay. That's not helpful either. That's completely, oh my gosh, no, thank you. But what I do want is that the good vibes, quote unquote, and the low vibes, quote unquote, but we're just going to call them vibes because I don't like the moralistic thinking either. They're all welcome. Again, your windows are open and every breeze comes through instead of trying to pick and choose portions of a breeze. Like, how crazy would you look if you were standing at a window and opening and closing when you were like 1 second of this breeze, no 2 seconds of this breeze, but 1 second of this breeze? Like, you would just stand at a window all day opening and closing it. And that's like absolutely bananas. Like, you would look insane, but that's what happens. That's what you're doing when you try and pick and choose and cherry pick emotions. Like, it's insane and it doesn't work. And what happens is it cuts you off from everything. So then people wonder why they're numb and they wonder why they can't feel anything and they can't feel joy. And it's because they have been shut off from everything. It is one of the very few things in this life where it is all or nothing. There is no pick and choose. So good vibes only is not only stupid, it's completely unrealistic. And it also leads to self gaslighting, right? Where people are like, oh, I have to be happy. I have to find the silver lining. I have to be grateful for this. And you don't. You don't. I mean, it may be helpful at some point to say, what were the lessons from this? What meaning can I give to it that feels helpful and powerful to me? But some things just suck. Some things just suck. Like, a cancer diagnosis, a chronic health diagnosis, a miscarriage, an assault. Those suck. They suck. And there's no like, oh no, you're not allowed to, no low vibes about it, no crying about it, no trauma reactions about it because that's low vibes. Is like, what the fuck are people doing? What are they doing? Now, I get perhaps that the intention is like, they want people to focus on what's helpful, but at some point, again, that just becomes gaslighting and spiritual bypassing, which is not okay. Like, if you can't talk about something that's painful, then you're burying it and it will again come up in more and more and more fucked up ways until you are forced to deal with it. This is how you see people go from having like a lot of worry about something to having anxiety about something to having panic attacks. Like, your body is forcing you to feel things because you haven't felt enough things in such a long time. And your body's like, well, guess what? We're going to feel. I'm going to force you into your body because you haven't been in your body for so long that it's actually detrimental. And I think I've been decapitated because I can't feel my body and I haven't felt my body in a long time. So I'm going to force you to be in your body, which is what I see happen a lot with panic attacks. And this good vibes only spiritual woo woo bypassing shit. And like, listen, I love the woo, y'all. I love the woo. I love the manifesting. I love the abundance. I love all of those things. But I'm going to call the toxic out when I see it. And it leads to just like the amount of damage it does to clients that I see is so much. And so I have to undo a lot of this when my clients come, and I end up undoing a lot of this, like, but I'm only allowed to be happy and I'm only allowed to feel good and I have to be positive about things that may have been really horrible. And you don't have to be positive about it. You don't have to find a silver lining. You don't have to be grateful that something tragic happened to you or that it wasn't worse. You don't have to, completely forget because other people have it worse. Like all of that is this good vibes only nonsense. And what it does is it disconnects you from your actual experience and your reality, which, hello, is gaslighting. So that is not the vibe. We have basically covered everything in like 10 minutes, which is pretty bananas. So this good vibes only is also rooted in shame and moralistic programming. It's like when people say, oh, like good food or bad food, right? Like that's not a thing. Food is food. Now, is a lot of food more nutritious than others? Yes, but putting this like moralistic programming on it is not beneficial, because then if you eat bad food, the connotation is that you're a bad person. If you eat good food, then you're a good person. If you feel the good feelings, then you're a good person. And if you feel these bad feelings, anger, judgment, shame, sadness, what people identify as bad feelings, and none of them are bad, they're all just information, then you're a bad person. And then people think, oh God, I'm such an angry person, I'm horrible, what is wrong with me? Versus like, why am I so angry? What is my body trying to tell me? Which is an infinitely more useful thing to think. So I'm not in the realm of like shaming people for their human experiences. And I have a lot of clients who are very angry when they first come to see me, and they're like overwhelmed with anger almost all the time. And I can tell you 100% of the time, it's because they are so overwhelmed and they've shut down so hard that the only thing that gets through is anger. When you shut down, the only emotion that you can feel is anger. And so your body is trying to tell you like, hey, there's so much information under here and we're just angry. Like we're angry, but what you really are is whatever that anger is protecting you from feeling. And that can be a number of things. And often those things are not very pleasant. But if you don't learn to surf those waves, if you don't learn to feel those emotions, then you're going to be trapped in a prison your whole life. Like when you run from emotions, you never stop running because emotions never stop coming. Like life is emotions. We are emotional beings. We have thoughts, but we are emotional beings. It's how we exist. And when you're trying to bury them, when you're trying to run away from them, like not only is it not possible, but you can never stop, because when you've been at zero for so long, like every emotion feels overwhelming. And so you're just running and running and running for your whole life. And it's exhausting and it doesn't even work. And it puts you in a really bad position. It just puts you in a position of just danger, quite frankly, because emotions are so much knowledge. And so this good vibes only gaslighting nonsense convinces people that if they're not happy, they're not doing it right. And if they're not okay, they're not doing it right. And so the message that gets across is like, you're doing it wrong. Everything is wrong. And it's just garbage. It's hot garbage. It is a dirty diaper that people are eating because they don't know better. And because it sounds nice, right? Like, oh, good vibes only, peace, whatever. Like, we love that. But like, life is not sunshine and rainbows, y'all. So this like shame, this guilt, this moralistic programming that comes with it is so damaging. And so what I want you to think about is like, all vibes are welcome. Everything is felt, everything is worked through, because that is the human experience. That is life. Like we're emotional beings, and it's all welcome to come and go in its own time. So it's like whatever comes, let it come. Whatever comes, let it come. And whatever goes, let it go. And emotions don't stick around. Like all emotions are transient. There's a reason that people call them a wave of emotion, but like, just like the waves in the ocean, rhyming, they do go away. And when you allow them to go away in their own time, they don't stick around and they don't come up and they don't cause problems, which is exactly what happens if you try and bury them. They cause hella problems. So what I tell people is like, shoving an emotion down is kind of like shoving a bird in a closet. Like every emotion is a different bird. And so pretty soon, like you end up with like 300 birds in a closet, and every single one of those birds is pissed off because they've been shoved in a closet and they want to be free. So that, so when you open that closet, you've got like hella birds coming at you because they're like, finally some freedom. And then you're like, oh my God, why are there so many birds? Why are there so many birds? I'm overwhelmed with birds. And it's like, Right, because once you open that door, whatever's stored is going to come out. And it's way better that you control what comes out versus having it control you in ways that are, can quite frankly be dangerous or very damaging. Like, you've seen people go from like quote unquote 0 to 100 and then they like explode, right? Well, humans are pressure cookers and your body is going to release that stored up energy any way that it can. And if the only way it can come out is to tag on to like a bunch of anger or a bunch of explosion, then like 100% it's going to do so. And that's why you'll often find people will get like real mad about something and then they'll get mad about something else and something else and something else until they're just like blowing up over all this stuff. And that's one of the reasons is that they're like, as they escalate, their anger is like picking up all these other emotions because the human body is essentially a pressure cooker. And it's like, listen, if we don't release this pressure, we're going to explode. So I'm going to take this opportunity while you're already mad, you're already escalated, to release as much pressure as possible. And then you'll see people blow up over like a parking spot and like lose their shit over a parking spot. And it's just bananas. Like, it doesn't have to be that way. If you feel everything and allow everything to come, again, just like an open window and a breeze, then nothing gets trapped. And when nothing is trapped, when nothing is buried, there's no need to release as much pressure as possible because you're essentially at a 1 or a 2 all the time instead of sitting at like a 9 or an 8, which is not the vibe. So the birds in a closet, when people like shove them down and shove them down and shove them down, in therapy, in working with someone, like what happens is we take out the birds by choice and we release the birds by choice. And then eventually you get to where there's like no birds, or there's only the birds from that day, which is a really beautiful process because then you're only dealing with the emotions and the information from that particular day instead of a lifetime, instead of the worst things you've ever been through being buried. It's a lot. It's a lot to dig through, and it's not realistic that, you can perhaps do that on your own. Like, there's a reason therapists exist and there's a reason that coaches exist, good coaches and good therapists, hopefully. And having help to sort through those birds in your closet and those bodies that you've buried is, I'm not going to say essential, but essential. You know what I mean? So if you have been, this like really went off on a tangent, but if you've been adopting this like good vibes only nonsense, then I very strongly encourage you to adopt a more helpful view, which is that all emotions are information, and information is valuable because it leads to insight, and insight can lead to informed change. And when you decide, when you have information on what's working and what's not working, then you're not just throwing spaghetti at a wall and hoping that it sticks. Like, you're being strategic and you're making plans, and you're not having all of these problems that like 100% will come with what happens if you're running from your emotions, if you're adopting this like good vibes only mentality that again is really just gaslighting yourself and denying your reality and denying your human experience. And it's not okay. So if you want to work on that, holler at your girl. If you want to work on allowing emotions to come and go as they come and go, and to feel as they come so that you have no angry birds in your closet, let me know. And I can point you towards some resources. But, the podcast is a pretty good one. So just binge some episodes. All right, mon frere, surf the waves. No good vibes only in this crowd. We allow all vibes. All vibes are welcome. All right. Have the most beautiful day. Bye.